They said money could buy anything, but she never asked for him. In the dead of night, beneath the veil of mist-covered moorlands, a millionairess returns to her secluded estate, only to find that something ancient, primal, and hungry has been waiting. This is not a love story, it's a pact written in blood. Welcome to the Millionairess and the Dogman, where secrets howl, shadows hunt, and the rich don't always make it out alive. Part 1. The Silence of Luxury. I always believed the greatest luxury wasn't money, it was silence, solitude, the kind of peace that settles in your bones when the world no longer knows where to find you. That's why I bought the estate, 5 bedrooms, 2 acres of seclusion, bordered by ancient pines and thick-limbed oaks that shrouded the property like royal guards. Even the birdsong seemed hushed beneath their boughs. My private road, custom-designed concrete with integrated heating to melt snow in the winter, patterned with decorative scoring and lined with soft landscape lighting, coiled through the forest like a silk ribbon. It wasn't visible on GPS, and that was intentional. You didn't find this place unless I invited you. The house was a marriage of brutalist security and minimalist opulence. It was fortress meets art gallery. Everything was bespoke, floor-to-ceiling glass walls, temperature-responsive flooring, solar-integrated roofing that shimmered like slate obsidian under the sun. I'd commissioned smart surfaces, custom finishes, and discrete biometric security systems woven into the very structure of the home. But the front doors? They were a statement, one that whispered power. Crafted from wrought iron and reinforced steel, they stood nearly 10 feet high, jet black and matte, carved in elegant symmetry. Their surface was etched with fine lattice work, bold yet intricate, almost lace-like if steel could be delicate. They were impenetrable, bulletproof, stormproof, and timeless. I chose them not only for security, but for presence. They didn't simply guard the home, they announced it. Once those doors sealed behind me, the outside world ceased to exist. Geneva had drained me. The trip was productive, efficient, even elegant in its own way, but exhausting. I had chaired the board meeting with precision, closed the acquisition 36 hours ahead of schedule, and made the snap decision to fly back early. Something in my gut told me to come home, so I did. I skipped the driver, opting instead for my Porsche Panamera GTS to glide up the private road under a canopy of moonlight. I parked beneath the arched portico just as the entrance lights flared to life, casting a warm golden glow across the sleek black facade of the house. It was 10:46 p.m, one day early. The mansion knew I was home. The lights in the entry vestibule adjusted to 40% brightness, my preferred nighttime setting. Silent climate control shifted the ambient temperature 2 degrees warmer. The scent of fresh-cut peonies arranged in a low baccarat vase wafted from the console in the foyer, intermingling with the faint polished scent of waxed mahogany from the staircase banister. No staff, no voices, just the echoes of curated calm. But my house manager had already made preparations. In the kitchen, everything had been executed with immaculate care. The refrigerator opened with a gentle sigh, revealing my usual welcome home staples displayed like offerings in a high-end spa retreat. An organic fruit platter sat center stage on a slab of chilled white marble, blood oranges fanned into rosettes, ripe strawberries glistening with dew, black figs cut open to reveal dark honeyed interiors. Pomegranate seeds sparkled like rubies beside medjool dates and carved slices of dragon fruit. On the middle shelf, a crystal bowl held a delicately arranged salad, frisee, wild arugula, shavings of heirloom beetroot, paper-thin radish curls, and edible pansies, lightly misted to keep their petals crisp. A small wooden board displayed a modest but refined cheese selection: truffle brie, blue Stilton, a tangy goat's cheese rolled in crusted herbs, each wrapped in beeswax paper sealed with my initials in gold ink. On the lower shelf, tall hand-blown glass bottles filled with gourmet infused waters, lavender and lemon balm, rosemary and cucumber, and bergamot and mint. Adjacent to them were pressed glass carafes of cold-pressed juices, pink guava, green apple celery, and deep garnet beetroot blend. It was familiar, decadent, and comforting in the way only ritual luxury can be. And yet, as I stood barefoot in the stillness, the atmosphere felt slightly off, like the house was holding its breath. My dogs, Cairo and Yara, and my cats, Anu and Bass, were still at their boutique pet hotel in Kensington. I'd booked them in for the full week, anticipating a longer stay abroad. My changing schedule meant I'd arrived back early without them, and my house manager, not due to return until 8 a.m. the next morning, so I was alone, completely, undeniably, dangerously alone. But fear didn't come first. Familiarity did. I slipped off my stilettos, letting the soft clatter echo down the hall, and walked barefoot across polished dark oak floors that gently warmed beneath my steps. My silk robe fluttered behind me as I moved from room to room, drinking in the silent grandeur. The house responded with quiet intelligence, motion sensors guiding the lighting. Automatic drapes parted slightly, allowing the moonlight to stream in. A soft ambient hum from the invisible security system filled the air like white noise, a sonic lullaby of safety. I didn't turn on the music. I didn't need to. The house had a rhythm of its own. In the master suite, I let my suitcase rest untouched by the door. I'd planned on a bath, a long soak with rose salts and bergamot oil, but fatigue hit me like velvet fog. Instead, I stepped into the rainforest shower. The water was already preset to my preferences, 42 degrees Celsius, medium pressure. I let it rinse off the residue of the plane, the meetings, the energy of airports and strangers. Then I toweled off, stepped into a fresh robe, cream silk with black piping, and padded over to the bed. The sheets were perfectly turned down, Italian linen, crisp and cool against my skin. A spritz of neroli hung in the air. I curled into them and exhaled deeply, my body melting into the mattress like warm wax. And then I drifted off, half lulled by moonlight, half by the gentle hypnotic hum of the curator system sinking with my breath. 2:19 a.m. I know the exact time. My nightstand panel blinked in the darkness like a heartbeat. I didn't wake from a dream. I woke from nothing. One moment I was wrapped in the bliss of deep sleep. The next, my eyes snapped open, heart pounding. I lay still, listening. Then I heard it. Scratch, scratch, My breath hitched. It wasn't loud, not sharp, but it wasn't random either. The rhythm was too precise. It wasn't a tree branch, and it wasn't the wind. Thump. This time it was louder, weight behind it. It was outside, but far too close. The room felt colder suddenly, too still. Even the air was tense, quiet like it knew something I didn't. I slid silently from bed, pulled open the drawer, and retrieved the flashlight, a sleek gunmetal piece I kept fully charged at all times. I didn't turn it on. The house was drenched in moonlight. Silver beams poured through the tall windows, casting long angular shadows across the floor. It was enough. I crept forward, my steps silent on the warm floor. Scratch, scratch, thump. There it was again. This time I knew exactly where it came from. The east hallway. The one that ended in the cathedral-style window, tall as the house itself. A single seamless pane of reinforced glass, framed by velvet drapes. I'd fallen in love with that window the moment I first toured the house. It framed the forest outside like a living painting. But now, in the silence, I began to wonder. Maybe the window didn't just frame the view. Maybe it invited it in. I moved closer, hugging the wall. Each step felt like a heartbeat. The air was thick now, rich with unease. And then I reached the edge of the hallway. I looked toward the window and saw it. Part 2. The eyes at the glass. There are moments that suspend reality, seconds that stretch so taut, so unbearably slow. You could swear time itself has forgotten how to tick. This was one of those moments. I stood frozen at the mouth of the east hall, cloaked in shadow, staring at the massive glass window at the far end. Moonlight spilled in through the trees outside, casting silver rivers across the polished floor. The trees swayed gently, everything moved, except for it. The figure. It stood just beyond the glass, tall, inhumanly tall. It loomed in the darkness, its massive frame outlined by the halo of moonlight pouring from above. I could see the bulk of it first, thick, wide shoulders tapered down to a narrow waist, like a body sculpted from violence. It stood upright on two legs, unnaturally still, yet perfectly balanced. But it was the head that turned my blood to ice. Two pointed ears, angular, canine, stood alert atop a domed skull. They reminded me instantly of a Doberman's, sharp, watchful, sculptural. The creature's fur was dark, black in some parts, steel grey in others, coarse but clean, like brushed metal under moonlight. The muscles underneath flexed gently with each breath, as if its whole body were on the verge of some explosive motion. But it didn't move, not yet. It simply watched. And then I saw the eyes. Two orbs of molten gold, not glowing like headlights, but burning, deep, internal, like something alive inside the sockets, something with intelligence, something aware. They locked onto mine, and I felt it, that ancient primal instinct clawing up through my spine. This wasn't just a beast, it was a being. My legs wanted to run. Every cell screamed to back away, but I couldn't. I wouldn't. Not while it stood at the edge of my house. Instead, I stepped forward, 2 paces, slow and controlled. It didn't flinch, didn't blink. I could see its breath now, mist puffing from its nostrils, streaming against the cold glass. Its chest rose and fell steadily, like a calm predator waiting for the exact moment to strike. My hand slid to the wall, fingers brushing over the hidden control panel beside the hallway's side door. The brushed steel warmed beneath my touch. Beep, doors secured, double locks engaged, parameter scan active. The system pulsed blue. I glanced at the panel. No breaches, no motion inside the grounds, and yet this thing was standing just feet from me, beyond the glass. The air around me thickened, the atmosphere charged like the edge of a thunderstorm. Static prickled at my skin, my breath fogged slightly. I looked up again. The creature had moved, just a fraction. One hand, if you could call it that, was raised and resting against the glass. Its fingers were long, thicker at the base, but narrowing into black clawed tips. The skin of its palm was textured, raccoon-like, pads visible beneath the fur, hands made for climbing, gripping, opening. It was humanoid, terrifyingly so. Its eyes were still locked onto mine, but the intensity had shifted, less predatory now, more calculating. As though it were trying to understand me, just as I was trying to understand it. My breath hitched as I took another step forward. I raised my hand instinctively and pressed it flat against the glass directly across from its own. Only the pain separated us. The cold from the glass bit into my palm, and still it didn't move. I studied its face. There was intelligence in the set of its jaw, the angle of its brow, the way it breathed through its nose instead of panting like a beast. This wasn't some mindless creature. This thing was aware, intentional. I should have felt fear, but something inside me softened. Not trust, not comfort. Something older. Recognition. This wasn't a home invasion. It wasn't trying to get in. It was trying to be seen. A low growl rumbled through the night, not aggressive, resonant, almost like a voice clearing its throat underwater. The creature pulled its hand away from the glass, turned its head slowly toward the trees, then looked back at me. There was a long silence, and then it stepped back, one foot, then another. Each motion was deliberate, silent. Its body melted into the darkness, swallowed by shadows and trees, until all that remained were those two golden eyes, slowly fading, then gone. I didn't move for several minutes. My hand stayed pressed against the cool glass, the ghost of his presence lingering like static on my skin. My heart thudded dully in my chest, slower now, though still pounding. Eventually I returned to the panel. The locks were still engaged, no triggers on the motion sensors, no alerts. Whatever it was, it hadn't breached the parameter, but it had been there, and it had known I was too. Back in my bedroom, I poured myself a second glass of wine, this time something stronger. The Syra was sat untouched. I opened the side cabinet and poured a dram of Yamazaki 18 into a heavy-bottomed crystal glass. The whiskey burned warm down my throat, grounding me, reminding me I was still in control. I turned the security system to manual override, setting it to scan every 30 seconds. Thermal centers, parameter drones, and motion cameras. I wanted everything watching tonight, and yet, somewhere deep down, I knew it wouldn't return unless it chose to, and no system would stop it. Sleep came only in fragments. Every creak in the wood, every whisper of wind against the glass had me opening my eyes, but there was nothing else, just the hum of technology and the low pulse of awareness hanging in the air like a weight. At 6:57 a.m., my house manager arrived. I watched her from the second floor landing, calm and unaware, unlocking the front gate and pulling her electric SUV into the service drive. She stepped out, greeted the house as if nothing had changed, and began her routine. I didn't say anything, not yet. Later that afternoon, I walked to the perimeter myself. The eastern edge of the property where the creature had stood was untouched. No prints, no bent branches. Nothing disturbed, except near the tree line, hidden beneath a bed of pine needles, I found something resting at the base of a rock. A single stone, flat, smooth, and heavy. Its surface had been marked, not scratched, but etched, with a series of symbols, not letters, not anything recognizable, primitive but deliberate. A spiral, a jagged line, a circle flanked by 2 dots. A message, perhaps, or a warning, or maybe a pact. I didn't show it to anyone. I placed the stone on a velvet cloth and stored it inside the private safe behind the panel in my library. The same one I kept my watches in, the same one that had never held anything unknown until now. And from that night on, I began leaving offerings near the tree line. Nothing dramatic, just respect. Slices of raw meat, clean water, and a piece of fruit, arranged neatly on a stone slab I placed beneath the trees. I never saw what took it, never heard it return, but by morning it was always gone, and nothing else ever came to my window. We made an agreement, unspoken, unbreakable. I would not pursue it, and it would not enter my home. We were no longer stranger and intruder. We were neighbors. Predator and sovereign, creature and host. Part 3, The Pact is Broken. The silence returned, but it wasn't the same. It had changed. Before the creature, the silence of my home had been a luxury, still, untouched, curated like everything else. But now it lingered like a question unanswered, a breath held too long. Weeks passed without incident. The perimeter lights functioned as usual. My house manager never noticed anything strange. Cairo and Yara resumed their nightly rounds from room to room. Anu and Bass sprawled lazily across windowsills, occasionally flicking their ears toward the eastern tree line, but never growling. I kept leaving offerings, always just before dusk, always minimal and respectful. I never looked for it. I never tried to engage. I honored the pact, and in return, the creature kept its distance until the night someone else arrived. It began with a dinner guest, an old acquaintance from my Geneva trip, Lucas Vale. Wealth consultant, professional flirt, charming and hollow as a champagne flute. He'd been pushing to catch up since I returned, and against my better judgment, I agreed. I wasn't in the mood for company, but I also wasn't in the mood to explain why. He arrived in a bespoke navy jacket, bringing with him the scent of money, cologne, and overconfidence. His Porsche Cayenne rolled up my driveway like it belonged there. I let him in. We drank, we dined on grilled sea bass, truffle risotto, and roasted heritage carrots prepared by my private chef. And then, after 2 glasses too many, he asked the question. So, do you ever get scared out here, all by yourself? I paused, fork mid-air. I'm not really the fearful type, I said, eyes on him. Why do you ask? He laughed and leaned back. No reason. Just, you've got 2 acres of pitch-black wilderness around you. That's like an open invitation to things that go bump in the night. I smiled faintly, but my body stiffened. Well, I said, the things that go bump in the night know better than to try me. He left just after midnight. I didn't walk him out. The next morning, something felt wrong. The usual tranquility of the grounds was fractured, like stepping into a room where someone had just been arguing. Nothing obvious, just the residue of something disturbed. The offerings I'd left the night before, gone, but not in the usual way. The polished stone slab was overturned. The water vessel was shattered. Fruit pulp had been smeared across the base of a nearby tree, like something had rejected it violently. I crouched slowly, gloved fingers brushing the soil. Something else caught my eye, deep grooves in the dirt. Not claws, boot prints, men's size, heavy and fresh. They led away from the slab and deeper into the trees. My stomach sank. I reviewed the security footage obsessively. The cameras never triggered. The thermal sensors showed nothing out of the ordinary, but I knew my systems well enough to know when something or someone had slipped through blind spots. Lucas. He'd gone back there. I confronted him. He laughed it off. Come on, he texted. I was just curious. I wanted to see what your creepy forest was hiding. You weren't exactly chatty about it. Then, you're not mad, are you? I didn't reply, but I was. Not because he'd trespassed, but because he'd provoked something he didn't understand. That night, I didn't sleep. I left no offerings. The air was sharp, electric, like the night was waiting. At 2:03 a.m., the lights in the east hallway flickered. The system didn't show any breach, but I knew it had returned. I crept down the hallway, robe trailing like a shadow. The floor was warm beneath my feet. My fingers tingled. The moonlight was fractured by clouds, casting silver streaks across the floor like lightning trapped in time. At the window, the creature stood again, but it was different. Its posture was no longer calm. Its chest rose with heavier breath. The muscles beneath its fur twitched like taut wires. Its hands curled and uncurled. Its golden eyes flickered left, right, behind it. It was agitated. Hunted. I reached the glass, heart hammering. What happened? I whispered out aloud without thinking. It stared at me, but something in its expression was desperate. It raised its hand again. The palm was scratched. Blood, dark and thick, pooled around the pads of its fingers. Then it turned its head. A deep growl rumbled low from its throat. Not at me. Behind it, into the woods. A flicker of motion caught my eyes. In the trees. Too fast. Too human. A man. Gun slung over his back. night vision goggles, black tactical clothing. Not Lucas, someone else. Hired? Searching? They didn't see the creature or me, but the creature saw them, and it backed away, not out of fear, out of restraint. I stepped back from the window, heart racing. This was more than a trespass now, more than broken etiquette. Someone had entered its territory, and the pact, my silent, sacred agreement, was unraveling by the hour. 2 days later, I received an anonymous parcel at my front gate. No return address. Inside, a memory card. I loaded it in a quarantined laptop, no internet. The footage was infrared. It showed a man, Lucas, navigating through my woods, whispering into a headset. I think it's here. I saw movement, big, standing upright. I'm telling you, this is not a bear. Then, static, violent noise and a scream, short, wet. The feed cut. I didn't report it. I didn't need to. The same night, a new offering was placed outside my gate. A bone, clean, polished. Resting beside it, another carved stone. This time it bore a single symbol. An eye, wide open, staring, watching. I understood. The creature had kept its promise, but it no longer trusted that I could keep mine. The pact still existed, but now I was accountable. From that night forward, the silence changed again. Not luxurious, not sacred. It became fragile. I no longer walked at the property at night. I no longer hosted guests. The house, once my sanctuary, now felt like the center of a chessboard, and somewhere in the trees, a creature waited, not out of malice, but because it was watching, and if I failed again, it would no longer come to my window, it would come through it.